That's
Great. Well, let's call the meeting to order at, I think it's 9:07. And attendance, I know Carolyn is away, visiting a new grandchild, and David emailed yesterday to say he could not be here, but we have 4 regular members. And do you recall whose turn it is, Martha? Ed or?
I think it's Ed's turn.
Okay.
Julie was authorized at the last meeting.
Okay, you were the authorized meeting last time, so Ed's the the voting member authorized today. Is there a motion to approve the April 1st regular meeting minutes?
I will make the motion to approve the minutes from.
Okay, moved by Deb, seconded by Ed to approve the April 1st minutes. Any discussion or comments? All in favor? Any opposed?
I abstain because I wasn't
Okay.
in attendance.
And Deanie abstains. So the motion to approve the minutes carries. Public comments. Anyone in the audience have a comment about anything they would like to make at this time? Okay,
Denny asked if I would comment on the ceremony on Saturday.
okay. Sure, this is an appropriate time.
So on Saturday, in Duck River, the Sons of the American Revolution dedicated a grave marker, although there's no burial there, for Prince Griswold Crossley, who served in the Revolution. A law that was passed in Connecticut stipulated that if a slave served in the military for a period of 3 years, they would become free, which he did, served with Washington in Valley Forge and many of the prominent battles. Anyway, the Sons of the American Revolution did a wonderful job of honoring him, and we're happy he's in our presence.
This is, of course, the cemetery, Duck River, is just outside the historic district, but there are all sorts of intersections, in particular witness stones and research about enslaved people, and there are many witness stones installed in the historic district. My only footnote is that in addition to the Sons of the American Revolution making various presentations, including a very extensive history of the person whose memorial was installed, Ed made a terrific set of comments about the Cemetery Association and its involvement with the various restoration projects.
And it was impressive that there were a number, I would say, close to 10 descendants of this individual present.
And an audience of, I counted 48, but there might have been a couple of people behind trees, so about 50 people showed up. Okay, co-chairs report.
Why don't you go? Because I'm going to sort of lead. I'm going to go out. I'm just going to describe the gateway thing after you've talked about.
Well, okay. So a few things to note. Deanie and Martha and I attended the meeting a week ago, Saturday, 8 days ago, for various commissions and boards and committees of the town, in which there was an introduction to this new system, but also a good bit of sharing about various projects that committees and boards were involved with. And I think that was useful. One of the items that Martha Shoemaker emphasized was that the last planning, I always get confused on the POCD, Plan of Conservation and Development, developed by the Planning Committee in 2020, has a number of action items in it. And the Historic District Commission was aware of those. We have taken steps to form positions on some of them, but they do need to be written up and shared with other relevant committees and then presented to the board. So that's one item we need to work on. More generally, there's a cryptic little note under new business called project list, and Deanie and I have developed a list of various items, that being one, the POCD action items that need attention. We still have not had a response to our letter about the NEC future project and timetable. And I would suggest that we, at this point, contact the recipients and urge that we receive a response. You may have seen that a week ago Friday, 9 days ago, Martha Shoemaker in her weekly note indicated that the town had filed a response concerning the railway bridge. There was also a recent opinion piece in the Connecticut Examiner by Greg Stroud about that issue. Greg's opinion piece, and I believe our view, is that the critical issue going forward is that will be receptive to local input is the NAC Futures Study Project. So it really is timely to make sure that we know what the timetable is. And Martha, I don't know if that letter that we sent a few months ago has been posted on the website.
I'll make sure that it is. I'm not sure that it has been.
Yeah, I think it's useful. We shared it at the time with various boards and committees, and Martha Shoemaker had signed off on our sending it, but it should be up so that it's accessible publicly.
It's still true that we haven't received any acknowledgement. Is that right, Martha?
Right. No,
Yeah, no.
nothing.
I think that was all that was on my list.
Mhm. So just following John's comments, we attended this meeting here called Spring into Action, which John just described was for boards and commissions. Following that meeting, Suzanne Thompson, who is the chair of Gateway, came up to us and mentioned a meeting that had taken place at the library on the 26th of April that we didn't know about. If we had, so someone might have gone, but anyway, related to ongoing efforts on the part of this group, IBC, International Building Code. They're making an effort to amend the building codes to contain quite a few more, whether they're regulations or guidelines, I'm not clear, but they are requesting support for this changing of the building code statewide, Chapter 27, Section 2703. So this will become part of our ongoing discussion with Russ has been very involved in it with how the HDC can sort of participate in this effort. And we'll discuss this later, whether we decide we want to write a letter of support for this once we have more information. Suzanne requested that the head of this organization send us information, which we haven't received yet. So,
And I would just add that one of the explicit items in our governing statute about the HDC's authority is the authority to comment on legislation, state level, or offer proposals. So decide to do something we can along the lines that Deanie suggested. Secretary's report. Did you, excuse me?
No, that was,
Okay.
Okay. So we are currently tracking 10 issues and properties involving active C of As or other situations in the historic district. 2 of them are on the agenda today, the Florence Griswold Museum and the Center School. We also received a communication from Deborah Wade of 61 Line Street. That's for a like replacement of her porch floor. The same materials, same style, everything. She's just replacing old boards. So there's no, I don't think there's any issue with that. We also received a communication from Dana Gatchek of the Lowline Children's Learning Center about replacing their sign. They want to update it with a new logo and new hours. So we're still communicating with her about that. And then we have an update from the Lime Academy of Fine Arts regarding the signs, the particular sign that they installed, which protrudes into the public way of the sidewalk. They are in conversations with their electrician about moving that. And their only issue is getting it scheduled. So they're working on that.
Right.
That's good. We have submitted additional updates to our webpage, including the Historic District Handbook. And we will also be posting a new map of the historic district. And then that letter that we sent to the about the New Haven to Providence capacity planning study that we sent to the Federal Railroad people. So, and I don't have any update on the plaque program. That for the secretary's
Okay.
report.
Great. And we proceed next to Joshua and the C of A application filed by the Florence Griswold Museum.
Hello, sir.
Hey.
How are you?
Long time no see. I think our application is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
The fence along the north end of the property is in a dilapidated state and we wish to remove it. We hope to, in time, be able to restore it or replace it, I should say. But at this point, our basic straightforward ask is to be able to remove it. It's become fairly unsightly and is, please don't lean on it. It might come down on its own, but we like to remove it before any further damage occurs. And then hopefully if we can raise the funds, have it replaced. The State Historic Preservation Office in their annual review of the, or biannual review of the property said that it was not, from their opinion, part of the historic fabric of the house, and meaning that it's not the original fence that was once there. It's clearly a replacement fence.
meaning a replica of the original, because
Right.
there are these photographs from 1890 of a fence.
Yep.
So you're saying that the current fence is a replacement of that fence?
Most definitely. Yeah.
And is
I mean,
it,
it appears from the photo to be the same style.
Very-
It's got
very
the-
similar.
the
Yeah.
2 tiers of pillars.
I'm sure you,
Yeah, we have a,
um, so is it your intention to replace it?
it is, but we have to, it's, we have to raise the money for it. It's, we've had prices from, ranging from 25,000 to 50,000. Not a, inexpensive proposition.
Grants? Have you looked into grants? I mean, I think
We
there's,
have.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's I think there is some strong interest on the part of this group and others that feels that that fence is sort of a link to the past of
Sure.
of it. And so, would hate to see it go and not come back.
Yeah, I
So,
mean-
but I'm obviously very aware of the cost of it.
So we had 2 options and, our Buildings and Grounds Committee opted on the remove it and raise the funds rather than keep it while we're trying to raise the funds and let it continue to look unsightly.
Right. And repair is not
Yeah,
something.
what about repair? What's the,
It has, for 20 years, our maintenance crew had been trying to repair it and keep it on life support. And it is, I mean, when I say don't touch it, I literally mean,
it's rotted to the
Oh, yeah.
point where you can't
yeah,
repair it? I see.
yeah, it's well beyond
Right.
its serviceable life, unfortunately.
There are stone pillars associated with the fence.
There are.
Will they remain in place?
You got it. They sure will.
And do you know anything about the provenance of those? Were they put up to help support the fence or were they old hitching posts?
No, I suspect they're original to the fence. They were part of the construction of the original, of the original fence.
Oh, the
One of the-
picket fence?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yep.
to hold it.
Hold it all up in
Hold it up.
place. Yeah. And so one of the things that we'll want to do as we do a restoration of the fence is actually just make sure those are seated properly. And it may mean that we pull them up, have a new proper foundation placed underneath those, and then reset. Part of the reason why it's not an inexpensive project to do, to put up the new fence. The other expensive part is the hardware for the gates, or not the hardware, but making the gates themselves, because this also includes, of course, 2 gates.
The gates at the driveway, is that right?
That's right.
Is there a gate, is there a gate there now? For the
They
driveway?
will, again, I wouldn't swing them, but you, in theory, could open them up.
Oh, okay.
Is the drive that's to the right of the path, in other words, the drive that's right along the property line between the Flowgrizz and the Audubon, is that part of the Flowgrizz? In other words, there's a
Yeah,
separate, is that a work drive or just
It's a what is called the fire lane.
it's the fire lane? I see.
That may have been, John, you may know, was that incorporated when they built Kriebel?
I don't know.
That's part of the property. In other words, we're not talking about a separate ownership right there in the fence, because the fence spans that, correct?
It is clearly all on our property.
Yeah, okay, right.
Unfortunately, well, gosh.
The museum complied with part of our last C of A concerning signs by taking down the fire lane sign because you can't have signs on fences.
Right.
Are we okay? Are you okay without a fire lane sign there to designate fire lane you just referred to?
We're gonna put that fire lane sign back up. I think that was part of what we had discussed last year when we got the COA to have it removed, is that we'd like to put that back, if anything, just to discourage members of the public from
Using it.
using it and
To-
traveling down it.
I mean, here's my concern, to be frank. I think the fence, if even though not original, is a link to the days of the art colony, and it would be
Totally.
great to have it there. Usually when we get requests for removal, which statute says you have to file for any structure. Sometimes they're old decrepit sheds and we go, something that had no historic link or value. The other category, and I suspect the reason that the statute requires hearings for removal of structures is because we want to know, well, what are you going to do with the mess if it's a house that comes down? And especially what comes next. And that's where I'm having a little struggle because we don't have yet plans or a timetable.
We had another situation at this commission, another building on Lime Street that they felt was beyond repair and wanted to, had plans in place to demolish it and just build a new structure. And we were sympathetic to their, to their needs, but suggested that they get in touch with Chabot. And they, great guy, Mike Fiorino, I think was his name. Anyway, he came and worked with them. And I don't know the financial, I don't know, what grants they received or tax. I don't know, but I do know that through this process, they changed, they sort of they changed their plan and the building's being rebuilt rather than demolished. So that was a successful process. I mean, just in the sense of but you say you've already spoken to Chabot.
Yeah, so the fence is A, not original, B, it's actually not called out on the National Landmark application as being a contributing factor to its historic designation. Now, we may feel that it's important for its designation and certainly we're committed and we want to rebuild it. The issue is, do we raise all the funds while the fence is in its dilapidated condition? And then come to you with an application that says we're going to remove and replace, or do we replace it as we're raising the money? That's really our dilemma. Where we're at is when should we come before you? I mean, any way that you shake it, the fence that's currently there needs to be removed.
Well, I wonder if, two things. There's the National Register for the museum, but there's also the district, which is part of the National Register. And I wondered if you check that. In other words, are the fences part of the designation for Lime Street being part of the National Registry? Or is the comment specifically to the National Registry?
The designation for Lime Street in the historic district, the houses are, but are.
No, the street is, the street is
entire street.
the entire, so I just throw that out there as another little point.
I mean, it's
think about.
really a matter of semantics because we want to replace it. It's just, your advice and thoughts on whether you prefer us to replace it, come to you with a COA when we have the funds raised and we leave the fence up in this condition, or we remove it and raise the funds and replace it. We're going to replace it. We just have to raise the funds first.
The next point I was gonna mention was ideally, this would be a like for like. I think that's what everybody at the table here would like to see is a like for like, which means there wouldn't necessarily be a C of A hearing required for it. So that's an option because I think it sounds to me like the museum's intent. I think the commission would be very receptive for a like for like replacement. I don't know what the time frame of that. Is there a year time frame or how that process might work?
We usually have a year. Martha, is that something that's required? I mean, we always on our C of A's,
Yeah.
we always
Usually-
give a year.
We
Well,
usually
we don't-
give a year. but it's not
Occasionally it's
called
been-
out anywhere.
Occasionally it's been six months.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
we
really.
have to fill in at the end.
We do.
Yeah.
The timeframe within which something is
We
to be
usually just-
completed.
Use a year,
Yeah.
but that's our we can
Right.
decide.
We can decide on
that
a
time
different timeframe.
You said the hardware was an issue. Is that not just usable?
No, we can reuse the hardware. It's just making those fences to get them to swing. And it's not an, it's, that adds some, to some of it. If it was just a straight fence, it would be slightly easier, but the fact that there's a gate there makes it a little bit more complicated. Again, not unsolvable, just,
Russ and I, as you know, farther north on Lime Street have fences, and ours are much longer than the Florence Griswolds, and the prices you quoted make me shudder. I have in the past myself replaced rotted things. I have also on occasion in extremis painted over rotted boards, and it doesn't last very long. But for a year or two, I'm just wondering if that might be an option. I mean,
I don't think
there's a
you should
shrub.
paint it. If you painted it, it would, like, I'm not trying to be silly, but literally I put my finger on it and it, the little balusters on top fell right over, which, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately been, you know, on life support for 20 something years.
Well, I'm about to actually replace several of my pickets in the same fashion. I have the same issue. And also I use epoxy to seal up the soft spots. I have some rails that are actually split that I'm gonna have to remanufacture, to your point. But you know, I think ultimately, if we can somehow get to a like for like,
Sure.
that would be the ideal, I think, situation for everybody. And I understand the cost of building a fence like this, the material cost, and it is a beautiful fence and detailed in its design. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's also, you know, part of the cost is while we're going to do this, we're going to reset the posts where needed and make sure everything is put back for the longest possible time.
Right.
The other thing to just mention about the like for like is that it would have to then be wood,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If it were changed to a different material.
Yeah.
Like a composite. I know.
I mean, there are places, the National Trust as well as the National Park Service is using composite material more and more. Harper's Ferry is using it for their wood decks now. It's not so good if it's white, in part because you'll be out pressure washing the darn thing all the time because they will grow mold and so on. So I don't think a composite material here is,
Mhm.
or aluminum. You may see aluminum fences that wouldn't feel right.
That's not a like for like.
We have approved composite garden gates
Yeah.
and fences here in the historic district. We're not opposed. I'm just saying that if there were a change of material, then you go from requiring a like for like application to a certificate of appropriateness
Right.
application.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is what species of wood, and it's hard to find a really good, high quality wood that's going to last. As we all know, you know, it's just hard to get you just can't get the same quality of wood. One quote we have is for it to be done in mahogany. But I have my questions about that just because that's proving that to last as long as one might think. The design of this particular fence too is there's some inherent vice in the way that the fence historically was. So you've got your spindles running through your top board, and what you can see this is the top of the spindles that are rotting out. The water just sits right inside there. It's not exactly the greatest design if you're thinking of.
I have that issue too, and I'm correcting that as I go with the new pickets, is to make sure that the water can drain from that location, because you build up rot in the wood right there.
That's it.
And the other thing is that you might be interesting is the post or mahogany, and then the rails and pickets are a cedar kind of construction. Yeah.
Do you have any, I know you've talked to SHPO. They have, my understanding, a series of different possible grants. Human Foundation, I know, has given money generally for the ground.
Yep. That's a good one.
1772
They
Foundation, you
denied
know
us.
about that.
Yeah, yeah, I know them very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I assume you have or will soon exhaust your exploration along those.
We have
Those
one,
lines.
we have one person who's expressed an interest. It's just not to the tune of 25 or 50,000. So, I mean, we have a little bit of a start towards its replacement.
We just, I mean,
Do you have any sort of realistic estimate for when a new fence, when it turns on the funds, but when there might be funds to do?
You know, I'd love to say within 6 or 8 months, we'd be able to raise the money and get it redone. And then it's just a matter of, you know, what the contractor's time is like. You know, I think I would be more in favor of making sure we have enough funds to do it and do it right. I'm not in favor of going halfway and in 5 years being back before you and saying we need another approval process. So I think we've got to, if we're going to do it, we got to take it all out. We've got to, you know, get everything set correctly and then rebuild it in a really solid fashion. And then the other issue has been, you know, the ongoing maintenance of it. And you know, I can't speak to what the maintenance was in the past, but that has to be part of the process going forward. The yearly painting of the fence, which is not fun, but is,
Consider it stain next time, if it's paint.
oh, it'd be great. Yeah, that's a good
That's
point.
what, I use stain.
Yeah.
It doesn't peel.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't help that rot issue though that you're talking about.
Fences are great. I mean, you know, I think I'm a little torn to take it down. Our committee really was insistent that it be removed before, you know, replace it. You know, if you prefer to have it stay up, I can live with that. I mean, this is really your, you know, the opportunity to get your thoughts and feedback and your counsel. It is, you know, on one hand, it's easier, will it be easier to raise money if it's up?
It's up. Right,
I
true.
was just going to make
Yeah,
that
yeah.
very point,
Yeah,
that once it's gone,
It's
you might
Right.
have people sitting
forgotten.
around a table like this saying,
Yep.
it's fine.
I mean, I think if, you know, there are a lot of folks that are very like, oh, it just looks so unsightly, we should get rid of it. And so, you know, if you felt, if you were saying, you know, yes, it's unsightly, but we'd rather you come back with a like for like, great.
I'm sure you already
This is
have,
all about figuring the best solution.
I'm sure you already have a raised your bid project in mind, but you could add a second one, Joshua. Come on.
An addendum.
Will you be the first bidder?
Yes. Collect all the money first and then say,
That's right.
and
right.
remember.
I think we need a community fence building effort.
Well, there's that too,
Yeah. It is, they're,
barn raising.
yeah. They're, it's unfortunately, it's to do it well and do it right. There's a lot of custom mill work in this. It's an expensive, it's not call up the local fence company and.
Yeah.
come
Are,
up
are
with-
the posts in decent shape? Is it just
I
everything?
mean, there's a tree growing out of one of
We
Okay.
did remove the tree.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
Yes, we did the tree. Which then damaged the cap. Yeah, no, it's, you know, I don't know the exact age of the current fence. I know for 15 or 20 years, Randy, who's in our maintenance department's been on the job of patching it, and there's spots there where there's epoxy and now there's rot forming around the epoxy. It looks like this fence maybe went in the 90s is my guess.
No, it was, because it was about the time I did mine.
Okay,
So it's in the 15 to 20 year timeframe.
it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty sure.
But the previous fence lasted a lot longer.
Yeah, right. That's right. Well, I mean, you keep that old growth wood,
Yeah.
right?
Was there a C of A ever, or did it go from this? There's nothing in the, okay, yeah.
We did receive a letter in response to our notices. We sent notices out to the abutting neighbors. And Mary Matthews of Wickford Lane wrote a letter in support of keeping the fence.
Great.
She's very
Yeah.
passionate about retaining the fence.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that was mentioned.
We
Okay,
agree.
well, we
Just not that fence.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a C of A before us. We can vote on that, whether to, at this stage, just authorize the removal with no definite replacement timetable. We could set our own timetable, but I guess that leaves things still in flux because of the fundraising concern, or we could turn down or ask Joshua to temporarily withdraw the application until there's a better sense about funding and timetable. What slight benefit there is today, I guess, is that you have feedback indicating that the commission likes the fence and likes the style of the fence because that conforms to what was there in the days of the artist colony. So,
And yes, and provides continuity with so much of the Florence Griswold story,
Right.
you know, all the visual history, so
Right.
to speak. I know there was some, whenever it was, controversy about somebody wanting a stone wall and somebody wanting a fence. So
Oh,
now there are two.
Yeah, yeah.
You have half fence, half stone wall. But that's part of its interesting history,
That's right.
you know, and
That's
so, so we all agree on that. We all agree we
I think it would
want to
be,
retain a fence.
Yeah.
But John, could there be a withdrawal of the C of A and then a submission of a like for like at some point in the future?
oh, sure. I mean, if you withdraw the C of A, you could simply basically take the text and then add the plans for the new fence if it differs in any respects from the old. And if not, you just file a like for like form. This is a public hearing. I should ask if anyone in the audience has any comments on this issue. Hearing none. Okay. So what's your pleasure, folks? Any additional comments?
I'd like to see it remain up and do the like for like, since you do plan on doing it exactly as it is. And I realize mahogany and, you know, whatever carpentry you have is going to do a great job, and it would be a very custom fence with brackets and posts, and you've got a lot of other things going on, but I would like to see it stay up there. Initially, I thought, you know, remove it and, you know, wait until you can get somebody custom to do it. But then is it going to be winter? Is there going to be all kinds of other issues? So I think now, and just hearing all of this, I would like to see it remain up and then do a like for like once you can get, you know, your carpenter and everything else.
Plan.
yeah,
Plan for next steps.
yeah. I'm sort of, you know, when I came before you, you know, I'm sort of no pun, but well, I guess it was a pun. I was on the fence. You know, I mean, it really could go. I mean, you can make an argument either way. It's not particularly in great shape, but on the other hand, it can certainly. I can point right to it, see why I need your help to raise the money.
Yes,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a very
that's-
good
yeah.
visual example.
And-
You're right.
In raising the money, you have a response to someone who asked, well, why not just take it down? You could say, well, the historic district, they met with some
Exactly.
opposition to that idea.
Well, that's not say opposition. I had some mutual support.
Mutual support in
That's
your
much
plan,
better.
yeah. Yeah.
You're more the politician than I am. Okay.
Well, it's an interesting thing for the town to look at our fences and, you know, it'd be fun to do a little study. Because there's so many different styles in town. And if yours is close to this, you just wonder, there's someone in that time period that went through and made a living making fences.
Like the wells.
Yeah,
Those look almost
Right.
exactly alike.
yeah.
The
Well,
stone facing.
The other thing is the building, about the same time, or I can't, maybe it was before, underwent a beautiful renovation and restoration. And look at what it's done, and it's a beautiful thing. So I think the fence falls in that same, a fully restored and like for like, I think would have a huge impact. So, yeah.
Well,
If that meets with, I mean, your,
Yeah, no, you know, I think part of the benefit of coming before a group like this is you get help and thoughts and feedback. So this has been fantastic and much appreciated.
well, I think you can, since the way the winds are blowing, we could vote on the current application, or you could withdraw it and come back in 6 or 8 months when the funding hopefully is
Yeah,
in shape.
I guess we will happily or unhappily, if the case may be, withdraw it and based on your good counsel and feedback.
All right,
Cool.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll let you, I have lots of these, so I'm gonna let you hold on to that.
now, instead of driving by and saying, what a wreck that fence is, every time I'm going to drive by it and think, what a great fundraising opportunity.
Should we like buy X, like, you know?
Support this fence.
Put a couple of these pictures on a little fundraising postcard.
Yeah, well, it'd also be fun to do just a little, we have some great historic photos of the fence, including that, but it'd be fun I'd love to see a little display somewhere about fences of old line, because they're an important reminder of our heritage, and, you know, they served an important purpose in their time.
We
It'd be
have
fun.
lots of our.
Ticket donation, rail donation, post donation.
Just
Incrementally.
see nameplates on every ticket.
Right.
This ticket.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
This one. You have bug?
Okay, Tanya?
Larger image. I did some. So here. We made it mouse around. But
Okay.
that's all the information that I had sent in several different. Yeah. You have the certificate of.
Yeah.
The application of appropriateness in front of you. My name is Tanya Catolo. I'm with Silver Petroselli and Associates Architects, and I am representing the Regional School District 18. Ron Turner, who's the facilities director, is also with me this morning. The town has approved renovations to 4 of the schools in town, and the center school across the street, 49 Lime Street, is one of them. And part of the renovation project is to bring do several code upgrades. And some of those code upgrades fall into this application, replacing the bluestone walkway, which would be the same stones, and they were images, and you can see across the street that they're currently kind of,
Right.
awkward and crooked, so they would just be reset to meet ADA access to the main entrance, up to all 3 entrances in the front, but in particular, the main entrance, which is going to be ADA accessible, as well as be a secured vestibule as the main entrance to the school. The project for the security vestibule includes replacing the door with a level 4 blast resistant door. And the existing trim around the door will remain, and even the transom will remain. So we felt that the transom had historical significance, and that putting a glazing in front of it that would meet the blast resistance would be a better solution. The door is being replaced to match almost exactly what's there, the double door. The only addition, and thank you for bringing that to my attention, because I was not aware that was there originally, a post for access to push, and then the doors will
will open for.
And
ADA
that's
accessible.
there, right? And you're going to put that in,
No, that is not there now. That's the.
but you will put it in.
Yes, so that's, and these drawings are hard to read, but that is this post here.
Mhm.
And in plan, it will be, when you approach, it will be kind of in the planting bed to the right of the door.
And does
Right
that descript, I can't read the description under it. Does that include a description of the material and height and dimensions of the post?
This description does not, but I
I didn't-
believe it
I
is
didn't-
36 inches high and it's, I think it's a 6x6 post. And it is, to me, metal, aluminum. I can confirm that for you.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it would be like right in here.
Yeah.
Is where it would land,
Where would it be? I'm sorry.
right
Okay.
here. So this would be ramped up and then there will be a post here that's.
So what kind of ramp will it be?
It will be made out of the bluestone.
Just, it will just
Oh,
be-
it would
okay.
just
So rather than
gradually
a
be-
step,
yes,
it'll be.
yes, there will
and
be.
Bluestone is,
No steps. At that particular front door, there are 3 doors. This is the main center door.
So if this, is this the elevation that you're needing to get to?
Yes,
And so the bluestone at every, are there 3 points?
there are 3 doorways. This is the one that's going to be accessible.
But as it approaches, you're gonna put a slope on the bluestone,
That will come up to this point and it will be gradually regraded in order, so it's
the
actually.
ADA code, yeah.
And how do you grade the side crosswalk
This
where-
crosswalk,
where it intersects the ramp?
that will be, this will have to get built up and then all the ramps will come up. It's very. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I follow. So the entire kind of T area is going to be raised?
This will be raised enough.
Yeah. That's okay. It looks like just this is the existing elevation, right?
Yes, that's the doorway here.
And so the ramps will start here and to here and here to here and here to here. Is that-
Correct. yes.
Got it.
3
Okay.
ramps.
There's 3 ramps, right?
Well, the
Could you-
whole
three-
area you would be
three.
able to access.
And what about here? Are these actually, there's ramps here too?
Yes, yeah.
Correct. But it's the bluestone that's gonna be sloped
Correct.
to do that. Got it. Yeah, okay.
There's another step from the platform to the front.
Yes, currently there's two steps here.
So all that's gonna be.
That's all
graded.
gonna be regraded, so there will be no stairs, no steps.
Right. Oh, I see. There's 2 steps. Okay, yeah. Okay. Is
So
that,
all of this will remain as is, and you can see the door that's been selected matches the existing door, which
but you don't have a photograph or elevation of the ramp.
no, not. I could ask the engineer to produce that if you'd like, but we don't have it at this time.
do we,
Bluestone is reset in stone dust, is that right?
and the length of those ramps are shown by that outline, or are they longer than that? Or in other words, does it go straight and then like ramp up, or is it?
I would believe it's a gradual. Yeah.
Right.
To sidewalk level, all the way back out toward the street.
Yeah, so this is the street here, and this is the new walkway or replacement of the existing walkway.
That would be best if,
Here would be flush. Yeah.
if the slope started at the sidewalk
Mhm.
and was gradual all the way up, right? Versus a break.
Yes.
Okay, let's turn to the
Thank you.
the post and the door. The post, you said, I just want to make sure I've got this, it's 36 inches high, 6 by 6.
Yes, but let me confirm that.
And made of metal.
Yes.
And is it colored metal,
No, it's not colored metal. It's just like a stainless.
aluminum
Yeah.
color? Okay. Is that pretty standard for
It seems to me like it is.
those?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what you could see, you've seen black ones, you know.
Yeah.
See- Yeah, I don't know whatever, I'm sure you could get it either way.
Yeah.
Any
Um,
rails on the ramp area?
Handrails?
Handrails?
No, if it doesn't exceed, I believe it's 12 inches at one point or 6 inches, it does not need a guardrail.
Mhm.
That's nice, right?
And then,
Maybe, yeah.
and then the door, you referred to changes in the composition. What would the material be?
The material of the new door is steel.
I think it says that in the.
Yeah, it did say that.
Steel with the wood veneer.
Yes, and it's blast resistant.
Oh, it's steel with a wood veneer.
Mhm.
Oh,
But
that's nice.
It says blast resistant.
Yeah, okay.
Right, I think that's, um,
That was in the like for like, I was looking.
Yeah, that would be like
Yeah.
the like,
I was looking at the C of A description.
panelized wood
Like the
veneer
like
to match the
the-
look of the existing door, paint to match existing door.
Well, that's great. So this, in other words, it's, the detail and design is to match the existing.
Oh, yes, yeah, you can see it. Looks
Yeah,
almost
yeah, yeah.
exactly the
It
same.
does, yeah, that's great. And the hardware, is there any, is this a representation of the new hardware, or is there additional?
Yeah, the
Hardware.
hardware was we matched pretty much what was there. You can see what's drawn here and what's on the existing building.
I see,
Match in terms of
Yeah.
material as well as
Yeah.
design?
yeah.
Because
I
they're
think
currently
it's great.
wood
I think
doors, or are they currently metal doors right now?
They're metal doors.
but it's nice that you can,
Yeah, the wood doors
Update
are
them
actually
and
be more
have them
historically
look-
accurate.
Yeah, that's great.
right.
I'm sorry?
No, it's just nice that
Oh.
you can update with the new blast proof and all of the
Yes.
safety measures and have it
And
look
look the
as,
same.
mhm.
Be nice if the astragals were, the existing door astragal is kind of a, not great.
Yeah, the new is not showing that, yeah,
Match in color or not,
and just be.
Yeah, yeah,
full door, and not-
yeah. that would be nice. Not that we talk about color, but
Yeah, but I was just thrilled that we were able to make that transom work.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
great, yeah.
I
And
mean,
then
a
the
black
trees-
post might be better.
Hmm?
Black post, I mean, I know.
Oh,
You're
that's
talking-
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the shutters, they just sort of maybe go away a little bit more than a piece of shutter.
And then the windows are different in the sense that there's glazing. Does that mean different glass or just a covering?
It's a covering, so it meets the blast resistant requirement, the level 4 blast resistant.
Like a
requirement.
glaze or something?
Well, it's just like almost like a panel, you know, when you see storm windows, those historical windows where it's just one piece of glass that
Right.
covers, it's like
Glass.
that.
So
But
that's what's happening, a piece of glass
Yeah,
is
so there'll
going
be a glass
across there.
over
It's a
the,
clear,
I see.
And it goes on
Okay.
Continue.
out-
on the
outside.
exterior, yes.
Yeah.
and the frame for that is, how does that work? I assume there'd be an added frame.
Well, it's a film.
Oh, it's a film.
Oh, it's a film.
Does it get applied to the glass?
I think it does get applied to the glass.
It's a film, that's interesting.
That's what I was
So that's
asking. Yeah,
just
that's
yeah.
really great. if
Okay, so then
that's
you really won't see it.
Yeah, that's
No.
great, yeah.
Nice.
Yes, because the original that was shown that was replacing this whole piece and it's not. But it's not necessarily into, it's not, you know, naturally, you're never gonna match what that transom currently is.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
that's it. So keeping.
And the film is literally identical to clear glass, there's not like a mesh or something in it, or,
It's not gonna- it's just gonna be kind of like the film protector over your phone.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's strong.
I can't envision how that works, but that's cool.
Well, my only real concern is I think in our motion for approval, it should spell out some of these details that are
Okay.
not, I mean, and I, don't get me wrong, I really appreciate the design and,
Mhm.
but some of it's not on here.
Mhm.
For
Okay,
example,
so you'd like to see,
posts.
the size of the post, the material of the post.
Yes, well, and we can specify
Location.
that in the.
Okay,
our
Roughly.
yeah, the
approval
location I had,
process.
Yeah.
Um,
Can we add that as a contingent
Sure.
rather than
The-
request a new?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can just, because
Yeah.
we often approve with conditions or contingencies, so.
Then we don't have to.
we don't have to do another application. Okay, thank you.
And I do think we should need to keep Martha, keep the like for like application with this because even though it's not like for like, it's, like for like application has a lot of the details.
Yeah, I referred to. Yeah.
So I'll take a shot and you can all fill in the gaps. That the, well, first we note that the stone walkways outside the area of ramps are like for like replacements, same stones. And then we would approve a certificate of appropriateness for changes in the walkways to slope upwards with 3 ramps heading eastward and 1 ramp heading towards the south and 1 ramp heading towards the north. Also to be composed of the existing bluestone, but the change would be the grade. And the grade would be such as to eliminate the need for steps. And then the second condition would be that the material for the door has changed to a blast resistant composite covered by a wood veneer. The transom windows are can remain as depicted, but with the addition of a blast-proof glaze or film, and that there be installed also a post allowing access to just the main door. So 1 post of black metal, approximately 36 inches high and approximately 6 by 6.
If that's what it is. I mean, if it's not that,
I
you should
mean,
let us know.
But
Yes.
we're saying
Right.
approximately. So if it
That
ends
works.
up
So
being,
we can
5
document exactly what it is.
if it ends up being 5.5
Right.
inches or 7 inches,
Just so our
it doesn't
records.
matter. But
Okay.
yeah, but excuse me. We would like to get all these details because part of our function is a record keeping function in
Yeah.
case somebody ever comes back and says, what did they do with the doors?
If you wanted to make that even a little more flexible, maybe we could say a 36 to 42 inch high post, 6 to 8 inches square,
I'm amenable to.
just in case.
Okay.
The only 2 thoughts I had is you could define the slope as a ADA compliant slope.
Yes, okay, that's a
Right.
useful addition.
And on the door,
Oh.
go ahead.
No, you go.
Wondering if we add that it's painted to match other, not saying the color, but that it's a painted wood door, or is it,
Oh.
are you varnishing it or painting it or what's
Painting,
painted?
painted to match the existing paint color.
Something to that effect.
Painted, it's
Just
just a
say
painted wood
painted door.
veneer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we also should on the door, specify that it would eliminate the, what's it called, that center?
The astragal.
um, as, that's what's there now.
Yes.
So do we have a
I would like to,
diagram of the?
yeah, I would like to confirm that because it is an automated door opener. That's what the post is for, is if you hit it and
Right.
it, so there might be some kind of electronics in that astragal. So I don't want to say that astragal is necessarily going away.
Just as-
Okay, so could we add with a removal of the astragal if feasible?
Sure, yes.
I would say, I can't imagine the astragal, that's part of your weather sealing, I would think. In other words, the astragal will be there, but I think that it's painted to match. You know,
It's not metal. Doesn't look like metal.
right, that it's also painted to match. Would be my comment. And I raised this just also for setting precedent,
Mhm.
you know, when we're talking about pollutions.
Well, okay, so we're getting a lot of conditions, but to say with removal of the astragal if feasible, or if not, painted to match the door.
I think that'd be great.
So we're improving on the like to like. We're doing better than what's existing.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Excellent.
it sounds technical, but any changes that aren't exactly the same have to go through a C of A.
The other one.
And if they're not in the application, we have to specify.
Just as a point of information, the blast proof, is that from a blast from outside or inside? And what would the source of the blast be?
Could be an automobile, it could be, we're not gonna get into the nasty details about it. But yes, there is standards that the state has set for these blast and ballistic levels. And the region has decided to go with a higher level, level 4
Mhm.
of ballistic and blast. So that the glazing on the inside of the vestibule only has to meet ballistic, but the exterior has to meet blast because of the possibility of some kind of explosion happening at the front entrance.
So not to, I think we're finished with this, but
Times where-
would that extend ever to the windows? In other words,
That's what's unusual about these
Mm.
rules is that it, the security vestibule is
entrance.
on this one door.
door, got it.
Interesting.
Well, there is a motion, and I'll ask Martha to read it back, but first we need a second,
I'll second the motion.
okay? And Martha, could you read back what you have, just to make sure
Yes.
we're on the same page?
Okay, so John Noyes made a motion, seconded by Deanie Mallory, to approve the C of A application with several conditions. One, the changes to the walkways. So to approve the C of A for changes to the walkways to be ADA compliant and slope upwards with 3 ramps heading east, south, and north.
3 ramps heading east.
Heading east, they're all heading east.
No, 3 ramps heading east, 1 heading south, and 1 heading north.
Okay. 1 south and 1 north.
And that should be ramps of a length to be ADA compliant, just to indicate that
Right.
roughly where they start at an ADA compliant gradient.
Of bluestone. Okay. Second condition, the material of the door is metal blast resistant, painted to match the current door. The door astragal to be removed, if possible, otherwise painted to match.
But also, I'm sorry, with the metal, is it metal
Wood veneer.
with a wood veneer?
Metal with wood veneer, okay.
To match the design of the existing door.
Yes, yeah. The transom will remain, and will be covered with a blast resistant film. Is that correct? The automatic door post, will be of black metal, approximately 6 by 6 and 36 to 42 inches high.
6 by 6 to 8 by 8,
By 6 to,
in that range. Is that
8.
right?
I think that'd be safe.
and 36 to 42 inches high. What I have.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, sorry, but I think we have it all now.
It'll be smoothed
good.
out.
That's good.
Any comments from people in the audience? Any further comments from,
I just have two things that I thought I would see in your application. For the ramp, I thought that there would be schematics of the incline, but there isn't. Because I just would like to have seen how it's going to intersect with the actual front door. And then for the clear film on the transom, those are going to be individually, not a frame or something that's going to be put up there, correct?
I believe so, because the film would imply that it's attached to the glazing.
It would.
You could add,
Yeah, it would have said a glass. Yeah.
you could add the film is applied to existing
The individual paint.
glazing. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I just wanted to make sure because we had an issue with someone else's transom
Yes.
on Lane Street, so I just want to make sure.
yeah, I mean, that's what we're approving, so.
Mhm. Right, if it
turns out
differs,
to be
I-
Something I need to.
And if you're gonna say film, you might say clear, transparent, or, define it as a
Right,
clear,
apply it
yeah,
To the individual.
To the
paints.
existing glazing.
yeah. A clear film applied to the existing glazing, yeah.
I think, Deb, would you be content if in lieu of a drawing showing the gradients, we get the dimensions, like where the
Yeah, I think
ramp
I
would
do some
start, how far from the
detail,
step?
Right, and exactly where the post is going to be too.
Well, that was indicated on the drawing. That was to the right.
And your schematic.
Yes.
That I think we covered on
Right.
that. You could also submit it as supplemental information with not only the details about the post, but the distance
The
from the
slope, yeah,
step and where the ramps would start.
That would be great. Our record keeping.
Okay? No further discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
All it's around. Easy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we have, next on the agenda, discussion of historic district handbook revisions concerning signs and lighting. Russ has come up with some, which he labeled, in the document that was attached, draft, capital letters.
Yes, of course.
Sign illumination, provisions. Why don't we start with those and then, or.
I just would, Deb needs to leave in
Oh,
15 minutes.
oh, so.
So I just
yeah,
maybe
with
if
some of the
there were some
questions.
specific questions of yours where we
Julie's
have
room.
Deb's input.
Okay.
Usual, yeah.
10:32. Okay, so guys have to leave.
That's fine. Let's start with the general questions. At the last meeting, Carolyn, suggested that we start working from a clean copy rather than, the previous one was strikeouts and boldface. So that's provided. But I think rather than taking the time today to try to edit that, and Carolyn is a pro at fine-tune editing, it would be worthwhile just stepping back and talking about what type of document we're producing. I had originally envisioned this as a replacement for pages 11 to 13 of the 2019 HDC handbook. But there was some suggestion that it might better be used as a supplemental document. It's possible that it could be broken up as responses to FAQs on the websites. Or some combination of the above. So that's the first question. And second question is, how do we disseminate this most effectively? Right now, as you know, we have been holding off on contacting people about what I call sign blight. Eric Knapp had his article in the paper generally about the town. But we have, for example, a few clear violations of signage requirements that violate zoning restrictions, never mind our own our own requirements, and that people have put up without coming in to seek a CFA. Particularly problematic with sandwich boards, which are prohibited in the residential districts. So, thoughts on where this draft should be published once it's finalized, and that will help, I think, guide some of the final touches. And then, another option is we just say, well, we've done this work, and whenever it's time to revise the handbook, it's ammunition, and we can look at it then. We have, this comes up again under new business, but a list of other endeavors that deserve our attention, and some prioritization of them is probably useful.
What's the inventory of the handbook?
What's the,
How many of those do we have in storage?
We probably have at least 300.
So this was 2019.
Yeah.
When the last time, how frequently is this redone?
It's about every 8 to 10 years. So the one previous to 2019 was 2010.
Because the difference in the sign, the sign here and this is dramatic. The amount of
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Right? So
Mhm.
on the one hand, I think, we could hold off on the document if we were just going to redo this soon. But if we're not going to redo it soon, then I think we need to decide how we're going to disseminate this or post it.
I mean, it just gets cumbersome because, well, I don't think we can do it immediately because other sections also need a review and updating and clarification. I think that it gets cumbersome. I mean, we have made minor amendments to the existing handbook. They're inserted in handbooks to be physically distributed. They're posted on the website. But once we start making lots of changes and posting lots of changes and having lists of handbooks, lists of changed text that gets inserted in the handbook, that's not really,
Can't you post it on the website?
well, we've done that.
I mean, in this handbook, for example, there's nothing that says what's, prohibited signs.
Right.
I mean, this doesn't even
Right.
mention prohibited signs.
Well, signs said, to be technical, that the historic district has not approved.
Well, and doesn't reference what is not permissible per zoning. I mean, in other words, you don't see much in here.
Right.
So,
No, I mean, I think that was our initial broad goal, was just to clarify things so that people in town and us and future members of the commission would have a sense of the criteria that we considered when we were faced with C of A applications.
I don't see why. I mean, so much work has gone into this on part of, especially John and all of us. And if Carolyn has agreed to, or is willing to look over it and go through, you know, put her eye over editing it. And we post it on the website as a, call it clarification, call it,
I did, we did have, not sure if it went out as a BCC, but David Ludington sent a note saying he was unable to attend today. But his view is that it should be part of the handbook on the grounds that once you start getting essentially more than one document, it could get confusing.
you mean physically, once we've approved it, physically add an addendum to this as
Well-
we've done? Is that what he's suggesting? Not,
I mean, if it's
Yeah.
part of the handbook, it could be either approved as an amendment or, depending on our timetable, saved for the
Right.
next printing.
Which could be in 5 years or.
Or,
Well, but
or
it-
2 years. I mean, if we have a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And what is happening, obviously, in many situations is that the print medium is kind of going out. And I can't remember the organization. Oh, maybe it was a reference at the, yeah, it was a reference at the
town hall.
the meeting of boards and commissions, and Martha said someone asked how many copies of the town annual report had been printed up, and they've cut way back, I think, to 600, because most people either don't look at it or just look online.
Version of the handbook, like.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, sure.
Well, I mean, I think we would want some hard copies.
Or something, yeah, at least the new homeowners or people requested to direct them to that at the very, very minimum. and
Yeah.
English and basic.
But I don't think we want to try to avoid the scenario of having boxes of
Yeah.
that are never.
The other big change or the big addition here will be an expansion or a better discussion of lighting. Because if this,
Yes.
Right.
you know, if this, I mean, Gateway has already adopted some clarifications that would impact what we might say here. So that's another piece before we contemplate reprinting.
Right, and we need to be careful about the intersection with Gateway, because already Gateway encompasses or overlaps with about roughly half of the historic district.
So this is the intent to notify residents and businesses in the district that there is a new sign policy. Is that the intent, or is it just
Well,
to have this on the website as reference?
Well, I think some notice would be in order. Again, when we started off on this venture of clarifications, quite a few months ago now, the goal was to get something in hand, send it out to property owners in the district, maybe in a cover letter, highlight a couple of,
Yeah.
or 3 or 4 of the big concerns, and remind people that if they're putting up a sign, they need to come up with us.
Do
Right.
we email all of the property owners?
We've communicated by letter the last couple of times. But, you know,
You know, having a separate sign document on the website does bring attention to it. In other words, if you're wanting there to be a focus that there is a set of procedures relative to signs, it'll get more attention if it's a separate document
Well,
than the handbook.
Or if it's what goes in the handbook, but it is approved as such, but is just posted separately.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right,
one of the issues on the list that Deanie and I came up with in terms of priorities for the commission is to work with Martha, who's done a Herculean job of getting stuff reposted on the new website, but to really think about the design and what would be user friendly. And it could well be that instead of just saying B of A and here's your requirements and like for like and here are your requirements, that we have specific subject matter headings. So if you're doing a building, you look under buildings. If you're doing a sign, you look under signs. If you're doing a sculpture, you look under sculpture. If you're doing lighting, you look under that, and there's a link to, let's say, basic procedures for submitting a C of A, but got the specifics there so that they're not just saying, oh, there's a whole handbook.
Well, one thing I like about the simplicity of the handbook, and I'm thinking back to when I first came to Old Lyme, is it was a beautiful book. It showed the aspiration of the historic district.
Yeah.
I saw it as a very positive thing, and I think there's a real usefulness to that.
Mhm.
I'm concerned that if it's laden with a lot of detail, that it doesn't have that same carrot, if you will.
Right, to keep it general and yet define details on the website.
I mean, you can also, in the next revision of the handbook, have something that says at the end,
Yeah.
additional
More detail.
guidelines or more detail.
Right.
Is provided on the town website.
I would,
Because this is sort of a PR.
Yes.
it serves multiple purposes. It does say,
It's beautiful, right?
it needs to highlight that there is a historic district. There is a historic district commission. There's been precedent in history here, right? And that there are, and maybe towards the end, maybe there are references to procedures and the C of A and things like
Right.
that.
Right.
But the very front of it, I think, is that very positive thing that I would hate to see us lose that.
Very welcoming.
You might want to reference that it also gets updated more frequently than, so that people should check the website for updates.
Yeah, I mean, I think they would
I
check.
think it's where people go anyway first now.
Yeah,
I mean,
good.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's been our experience
Yeah.
with some of these houses that have changed hands, they've gone
Right.
on, 76 Lime Street. I mean, he spent a lot of time on the website before he came in. So I think that's just more
Mhm.
the way people approach. They didn't come into the town hall.
And how does that, a new homeowner purchases a house, how does that get distributed to them? Does the commission issue that, or do we
Yeah.
just have people that have it and then here, the neighbor hands it to them, or
Martha,
we send it, right,
we send it with the letter.
with the letter?
We started to do.
Yeah,
If we're aware.
If
that
we're
something
aware.
has changed hands, yeah.
Right.
We
right.
don't always know.
Usually we know though, because Deanie knows everything. About what's happening in town. Yeah, or at least in the historic district.
Um,
And the other,
Or Ed always knows when something.
the other thing,
On his boss, yes.
the other,
Pat Spratt's building maybe.
I
Which
heard she
building,
was broken into at her house.
which building?
Pat Spratt, it's not a retail shop, but she makes all the linens.
She going out or just?
It's a beautiful building.
I talked to Tracy next door.
the other document that I think,
It's a nice.
and Martha, correct me if I'm wrong, but the original, charter document that the town committee, when we were looking at the map, there's a beautiful document that was submitted to establish the district. I think that either is continue to be represented in this or highlighted on the website in some way.
We have that. I mean, obviously you saw that. You have didn't John Forbes give you?
Yes. Yeah, and there's copies in town hall as well. But that has the history and detail of how the district was formed and the establishment of the district.
I'm aware that we're behind on our suggested timetable. I would suggest that Russ, and I know Deb and we have to leave. I would suggest that we spend a few minutes with Russ's to introduce his work on lighting. I know Martha's got to go over membership renewals and, oh, do you have copies of that list you could give to
Yes.
people?
This is a little
And-
project list.
These are things that, Deanie and I thought
Things to
we
do.
need to spend time with, and the question is, what grabs your attention? What would you like to help with?
If there's something on this list that you think you might.
That speaks to, that you feel drawn to.
Sounds good. All right.
So we'll talk about that next meeting.
Russ,
Perfect.
do you like a project list?
I still have another project that I'm a little behind on.
I, by the way,
Yeah.
It's fine.
he's grab you for a minute, maybe
Okay.
not right afterwards.
Okay.
Talking about fences, because my fence needs,
Okay,
I need to get your wisdom.
sure.
So let's talk about the sign illumination draft. And I don't know if you want to parse the wording now or
Well, I think,
just introduce, this would be the part of the sign, revised, updated clarifications that.
That's the goal.
would relate. So this is not the whole lighting.
correct,
Okay.
yeah, and I think what this draft doesn't necessarily do is cross-check with the Rivercog, is it?
Gateway.
Gateway.
Oh, and so, yeah.
And
because-
zoning.
Because zoning.
That's right.
Zoning adopted the gateway provisions.
Right, so.
Suggestions.
So
Thank you.
with that in mind, I think that language should be, there's probably some similar language to that. Because it all comes from the dark sky, recommendations for lighting. But I think the language, we should go to this, yeah.
Are you envisioning that the end product would include these sorts of details about
You'll notice,
color, temperature?
yeah, you notice that some of the language is here. And I didn't have full, in other words, I'm saying I didn't have full access
Right.
to all of
Yeah, I
this.
just sent that to you
Then I wrote-
yesterday.
then I wrote this, so,
Right.
but there are things in here that I wouldn't necessarily say, like sponsor Sierra Club Connecticut, sponsor Lights Out Connecticut. I'm not sure this is consider sending support letters for new proposed.
Right.
So this is not even a code yet.
Notice in the code. These
Right.
are just, I think,
Proposed statewide building
and these are
code. Or
the,
no, for regulations, those could.
This would be a state regulation here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Chapter
That's-
27,
that's the way I read it.
yeah, for
And the
lighting.
way the Sierra Club and I thought that was because they had been the ones that offered that language.
Language, right,
Right.
right. Obviously, we wouldn't say that in our language, but but I think the overall intent, and maybe just go through because I think we should be tracking what other organizations are doing.
Yeah.
And so that there's not a discrepancy. At the same time, think about what our intent of the sign aspect in the historic district is. And I think these points we can go through them and maybe talk about that, so that maybe some of these points we don't want to make, some we do, but ultimately that we have a document that is specific to the historic district, but it's not in conflict with the zoning or the state approach here.
okay. One question I had is about your number number 2, if I remember correctly, the height of signs is signs plus signposts. The
Mhm.
maximum height per the current zoning regulations is 10 feet.
Mhm.
So if that's 10 feet, would you need an extra 5 feet above to get, I mean, I would think a couple of feet, but
Yeah,
Like,
maybe I'm wrong. Yeah,
that seems like too much to me.
15.
I mean, what they're saying is that the light should shine right down on the sign.
So
Opposed to
you-
giving off,
You'd have the,
I,
I
I,
mean.
right,
something
and I think that's a very valid point. The question is how, if all types of signs, how far the light needs to extend
right,
up and around, like, for example, and is it just the, and I think maybe a question here, is it the light source that we're talking about specifically, or is it the fixture in its entirety?
I
And
would
how did
say-
I-
I would say fixture.
Yeah.
The lighting, you know, so you just say the lighting, including all fixtures.
Yeah. So I would not be opposed to lowering. I was trying to give a reasonable accommodation for design.
That's quite a height, 15 feet.
But maybe that's too much. Yeah. So if 10 feet is the,
and go up 2 more.
yeah,
I mean, for
Well,
the fixture,
what you can do is
This one.
to say a maximum of, rather than
3 feet.
15 feet is to say number of feet above the top of the sign and sign, the top of the sign.
well, I think, but part of it is to, like I said, I guess it does work like that. In other words,
I mean, you don't want to.
is the 10 feet above grade, is that the zoning code?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Top of sign? Yeah.
I'm operating from memory, but I'm pretty sure that's.
Then you could do a distance off of the top of sign.
But the objective is to have the light really focused on the sign.
Right, and that's the
So the
point.
closer the light is to the sign, the more likely you're going to have less diffused
True,
light,
that's right.
right?
Okay, well, that's an issue that I.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. I'm not at all opposed to reducing that. Yeah. I think the point 1 is kind of the general nature of what we're trying to do, the language there.
Mm-hmm,
Uh,
yeah,
Point 2 was exactly what we're talking. Point 3 is the targeting and the focusing of the light. And I guess this is where some of the other guidelines begin to get specific. And that is even here, they're talking about the intensity of the light.
mhm,
And I think it becomes challenging if we start to say, well, you can only have so many lumens. In other words, how bright the light is. I took the approach here is to say that the lighting is designed to illuminate what needs to be illuminated,
right.
and
No,
Which is what they're trying to
I
do.
actually think that's better. I mean, this reads, as the title suggests, more like a concrete regulation, like a zoning regulation.
Right.
You can't have a sign above 10 feet,
right,
whereas we tend to provide guidelines, suggestions of what works, what we haven't approved, what we haven't approved,
right,
so that people have a better idea of the process. But, you know, the problem with regulations is sometimes it doesn't always fit. So for our purposes,
right,
now, I mean, if in the revision of the zoning regs, there's an inclusion of specifics, well, that's zoning, and we
right,
don't contravene zoning except when there's a need to have stricter requirements. So,
Our issue is going to become, as it often is in the historic district, with the non-conforming properties.
right,
For example, I mean, a big issue and one, I mean, is the way the Congregational Church is eliminated, night. It's beautiful. But it's this gigantic light, that's
Right.
mounted to the tree. And it's against every dark sky code.
Right.
But it is magnificent to drive around and at night and have that be the only
Well-
light. Similarly, the village shops has the perfect light around their sign, just conforming to everything. But then there's another light on the top of the post that's shining at the building. Bright light that shines at the
Mhm.
building. So that's there, obviously. And I know they had this problem they've had this problem in other communities, pushback from business owners who want to have so anyway, these are the things that we have to,
Oh,
Consider.
the broader lighting discussion is much
Yes.
more challenging and difficult. For example, even the Lime Art Association has light that's just pointed towards the street.
so many lights.
And it may
Right.
be that, maybe that there's safety considerations for that. So I think the point of number 3 here is let's limit the light to the sign that needs to be illuminated.
Right.
Is the nature of that. Now,
And again,
can we add text to that?
well, all we're talking about here is science.
Signage, right.
The broader issues. Yeah, and
Well,
then
the
there's a
buildings
tough
is-
issue of what,
Some of the
You can
signs
have-
are
you
on
can
the
have-
buildings.
you can have regs, but if they change things that are currently
Right.
existing,
Right.
it gets really tricky.
Right.
Now,
First, to ask whether they can or should be applied retroactively.
We went to a good deal of trouble. I'm sure, Martha, you remember when they relit the parking lot. Remember the Art Association?
Yes.
And they were great and agreed to find lights that were very, very focused down
Mhm.
when they redid that. But then now they have, the difference between the entrance to the Florence Griswold and the Lime Art Association are startling.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I will note that I didn't include here, and it's a question, is I've read where some discussion is the illumination of flags from the top down
Mhm,
versus illumination going up. And the church is similar in
mhm.
that regard. In other words, instead of shining the light up to the flag, that there's a requirement for illumination from the top down. It, again, to reduce the light bleed to the dark sky. I didn't include it, I didn't, but
Right.
do we want to,
Well, no, I know that we're
I mean,
talking about signs.
even the
but
town hall light is probably from the ground up, right? Yeah.
Some of our signs on non-conforming buildings are on the building. They're shining at the building as opposed to being,
Right.
Yeah.
So, so again, I think it's how do we begin to interpret that number 3, which is, I think, a big part of the point, which is is how to control the light to just the area that needs to be illuminated.
Well, I mean, I think somebody coming in with a C of A proposal should be able to articulate with the building that they plan, how,
Right.
is this gonna be just on the sign? Is it gonna be a little bit outside? Is it gonna be, you only have a 90-degree shield, so it goes
Well, that's,
covers half the world.
so number 4 is kind of the next, is saying, okay, let's assume most of the lighting is going to be above a sign looking down. Let's at least, and this is in all the dark sky language, let's do a cutoff light so that that the light is basically going down and not up to the sky, and has a shield to do that.
so full cutoff means what? Means that it's shielded.
From the 180 degree.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what full
But then,
cutoff.
see, I would say
Yeah.
maybe that's in our thinking of what we might do in considering a C of A, whether that's appropriate. I mean, if somebody comes in with a 90-degree cutoff,
Mhm.
it goes to the sign, but it also goes off
For the neighbors.
to the neighbors, down the street, over to a building.
I mean, maybe 4 is too much detail. Maybe it's 3 is the, or a modified version of 3, or, whatever we want to do is you stick to the principle and let the submission.
Yeah, I'm not sure 90 degrees is, I mean, that verges towards regulation language.
Yeah, it does.
But I can see where if this is depending on the neighbors, the proximity of buildings, that could be too generous.
That, and then that's where the amount of light, the lumens comes into play. Particularly if you could light a sign and literally light the sign, but if it doesn't have that cutoff, you're also lighting the area around, and the intensity of that light
Right.
can grow. The other thing is, well, the zoning limits the number of signs, correct?
Yes.
Per property,
We limit it too.
Well,
because that,
We're
no.
supposed to have one per property.
it's one per
Yeah,
property,
lots, but
it's a
more.
maximum of 2 square feet in size.
Okay.
And those sorts
so we're
of-
not gonna run into the situation that I think is the bigger lighting discussion, which is, and the dark sky folks talk about the number or the amount of total lumens on a property, right? So when you have multiple light sources,
Right.
you see what I'm saying, right?
It's a total.
Then that can build and then radiate
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
the neighbor. So, but I think in the case of signage specifically, I don't think we have to worry so much, about that, because we're talking about 1 or 2 fixtures, yeah. And then the final 0.5 is, and you actually see that language here too, light, color, temperature to 3,000 Kelvin. And
Seems to
that's,
be pretty standard.
that's saying, what the effort there is to do is to move away from the blue, fluorescent,
LED. Yeah.
lighting, which has been proven to be harmful to, humans, critters, the process of different species, and into a warmer temperature light.
Well, I think this is great, Russ. Thank you. And if you, based on today's discussion, have thoughts about tweaking this, for the next meeting, I sensed a consensus that the signage draft will be posted as a supplemental document with a future reference in the handbook to consult the website. And then, I'll plug this in.
It should be part of the sign.
Hopefully Carolyn can work some of her magic. I had a couple suggestions. I have a couple other suggestions too.
And I think we need, I think we need to get the zoning, language that's been adopted relative to
I
lighting.
think we have,
We have that.
Somewhere. I mean, then it was,
It's
Suzanne sent it to us.
fairly, it's fairly minimal.
It is.
Do you recall, Mary Jo, the zoning language about lighting? It's not, it doesn't get into
mean with the
Kelvins
gateway?
or any of that.
But only,
Yes.
Unfortunately, it hasn't been posted on the web, but they do have, at least it wasn't the last time I looked. They have it upstairs.
And
The-
my recollection was that it applied only to buildings above a certain
4,000
size.
square feet.
Yeah.
So that was, that's the gateway.
Right.
So that's pretty much new buildings. Yeah, I mean.
Mary Jo, do you have any other comments based on what we just, I know you haven't seen this, but yeah,
No,
does that sound?
I can see what this, you're looking into.
An issue,
Okay, for
and-
something.
an issue also for zoning. Perhaps,
You know, that actually was what I was thinking. It'd be nice to have you come to one of our zoning meetings and informally discuss what you guys are working with
Mhm.
on this. And since we are beginning to look at changing our regulations, anything that we can do to make the two,
Compatible.
situations compatible. would be really good.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a wealth of information and we just received some more. I mean, we'd happy to, maybe we should forward it to who?
From,
Here, yeah.
Well, what
From
you just
Suzanne.
got from Suzanne.
Right.
I don't know if you're
Well, she-
getting the stuff from Suzanne.
Exactly, it should go to Eric now with a request to please give it to the commission members.
Right.
Yeah. she heard that email she sent to somebody called Leo. And she was requesting that he send us all of the information that was presented at that meeting.
Right. So once we have
Have
that.
that,
we'll
we should send
to-
it.
To Eric.
Yeah.
It was very helpful and for me at least, accessible information, at least what
Yep.
I've seen before. I couldn't tell you what a Kelvin is, but I mean, it's.
I'm starting to get it
described
because of this.
and-
The color temperature.
Yeah.
One thing that's not here, I'm just thinking is the kind of the historic design of the light. And in other words,
Yeah,
the character of
design.
design of the fixture itself, not necessarily, this is sign illumination,
We have
So it's
some of
about-
that in here,
right?
you know.
I mean, we have a lot about lights and just the historic character of light fixtures. But, I mean, I don't know how much we want to focus on that relative to lighting for a sign, yeah.
Well, some of the
I mean,
newer
very little on
LED
the design.
fixtures
Are
are contemporary.
They are very contemporary, yeah, yeah, that's right.
It does talk about light should be
But-
non-commercial.
But in some cases, a very contemporary, small fixture goes away.
Yeah.
We do that in theater design all the time where people are like, well, we don't want to see all but that's the technical stuff in a historic room.
Mhm.
If it's small and
It's true.
mentally it goes away
Mhm.
versus, every
Everything-
sign needs to have a
Yeah.
candelabra, you know.
Right.
Okay, thank you. And I think we can hopefully move through the rest very quickly. Membership renewals, Martha?
Yes,
And also the
That mine?
Old Line Historical
Mine.
Society.
Sorry. Is this
So I
mine?
started writing.
right.
You wrote on mine. Okay,
I
I'll
wrote
take
on
this one.
yours.
This one's. Yeah, no, that's yours. That's your agenda.
Right.
This is
Oh,
the lighting draft. I mean, the sign draft.
oh, I didn't get this.
There's the front door.
You wrote it.
Oh. Sign draft.
The sign draft.
That I,
Oh.
do you have another copy of that?
No.
Here it is.
Oh.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so we, for the membership renewals, that usually comes out of our miscellaneous line item.
This is mine.
And we have $450 in that line item. And we need to pay 288 out of that for the calendar page.
Yeah, here's that. draft.
Yes. So that would leave us with $162 left to divide among the memberships.
Oy.
Until the end of July. I mean, till our fiscal.
Yeah, I think,
Fiscal
I
year till
think,
the end of June.
I
Or end
just,
of June.
I just question whether we have, given the price rise on this calendar, whether we have the budget to continue supporting.
Didn't we
this.
discuss this?
We did.
I feel like we did.
In January, there was some back and forth and you said that I don't remember how much, but the bill had increased, I suppose not surprising given inflation, but
Right.
it's a big chunk of our
Right.
budget that goes towards organizations.
So there was a discussion about whether or not we would do it for the 2025 year.
Right.
Right. That's what we discussed.
But
Yes.
this
So
is the
this is-
invoice for
This year.
this year.
The invoice for the calendar that they already did,
Right.
So the question is, we know we're gonna pay this bill.
Yes.
And then that leaves us $162 to donate to these 4 historical organizations for this fiscal year.
Right.
I mean, we could split it. We could give what we can out of our this year's budget and then go over into next year.
Mhm. What is our other option? Is either not to do it, or we're not going to go and request any more.
We could, we haven't requested
Right,
an increase.
Right.
Um,
Well, I think we should look forward at that for next year. I'm wondering about, whether we just want to split it between the 2 local organizations.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Do
thinking.
we get information sent to us by Connecticut Preservation anyway? I mean, their magazine is actually kind of useful.
Yeah.
Is that go, like if you're a member, do you have to pay a certain amount to be a member in order to get the magazine?
I don't know. We've always gotten it. And we've always paid around $100, $115.
Right.
I haven't looked up to see, if everybody gets their magazine who's a member, or if there's a level that you have to meet to get that.
Well, I mean, just splitting it between 4 organizations, each one gets $40.50. That's kind of
I know.
silly.
it's kind of-
What's the source of the budget? What,
We devise a budget and submit it, and it's eventually approved by the finance
BOS.
committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be OS and the finance committee. And we have tried mightily to keep to minimal increases. I mean, it leaves us shortchanged. We had to really stretch, for example, if we had to have a legal opinion. So we got a legal opinion about the HD boundaries, and then we have the legal opinion about signage and the types of signs. And one of those years this was in consultation with Kim, we had to request a supplemental. But we were just at the point where we said, I can't offer a legal opinion on these things.
Yeah.
And we need to know, there were several problems about the boundaries of the district, and we had to have it clarified, so. But
I like
that's
this.
that's a digression. I mean, it would be nice to have $4,000 to split amongst 4 the organizations, but we don't.
I like the idea of the local organizations. I mean, that.
I wouldn't want to lose membership in any state organization.
Preservation Connecticut is useful to us. I mean, at least we reference them a lot.
Yeah.
And we, even today, I mean, they administer that 1772 grant, that we suggested to Joshua. Right.
So we have extra money in other line items that we're probably not going to use.
Well, we can, well, maybe that's right, for legal this year.
Yeah, don't have any legal. We have 500. Here's our budget if you want to take a look. See what we've spent. And that's to the end of April, so there's some things that aren't in there.
Didn't we decide not to support something? Was it the ice cream social?
Yeah, we
Right.
backed out of that.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Well, so what have we given in past years to these organizations?
So for Preservation Connecticut, 115. National Trust for Historic Preservation, 75. Lawrence Griswold Museum, 100, and the Old Line Historical Society, 100.
I mean, I guess for now, I would favor, those levels, except for the National Trust, but we have to do it in conjunction with getting approval to switch funds from one source to the other. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
if these could wait till the very end of the fiscal year, then we would have a clearer idea of what monies were not spent.
Right. I mean,
That's-
we could authorize, some payments out of the 162 that we have after we pay the 288. Because we don't typically, if we have anything left, we don't usually have anything left in that line item. But if we do, we don't usually carry it over.
Right.
So it's like, we kind of want to spend it. If we have it, we should use it if we have a use for it.
Well, again,
But it's not, it doesn't come out evenly.
What I would suggest and move is that we authorize payment of the invoice for the community calendar. And perhaps, communicate along with that it doesn't appear that our budget can support continued, funding.
Mhm.
And do you want to, approve like, Preservation Connecticut now?
Just give
That
them
chunk,
the 150 or
115 or 150,
It's 115 is what we usually
Okay.
send them.
and then, in another, see, we would need to know before our July meeting whether we can switch over the funds. If it looks by, let's say, 6 weeks from now that we're not going to be eating them somewhere else. So I would move that we pay the calendar bill and fund Preservation Connecticut at 115
Okay.
for this meeting.
The point I was making about the national and the state is there a membership level? Is 115 the membership level, or is it 75? Is the 115,
I can look it up.
is what I would suggest
Look it up very easily.
is doing whatever the
I see,
the
I
base
see.
membership level is.
That's.
And those
a
are-
good idea.
right.
And
And
those
then
are-
we're on the list.
That,
Lime Stark District Commission.
Sounds like an odd number.
that's right.
115.
Yeah.
Usually
We used to,
150.
We used to give them
75.
100 and then
Yeah,
Somebody said.
they
Some-
begged us for more, so we
It's
gave
been
them
many years,
115.
give them 15.
That's how they came up.
right.
But it does,
Okay, well, Martha's looking that up. Let's just highlight the new business. Do you want to mention the OCD projects, or take that for next meeting when we go through that?
Yeah, you and I can talk about that. Yeah,
I mean, it's on this handout that we gave you about possible priority
Right.
project list.
and of interest is the piece of information that was new to me at least, is that while the POCD, the Plan of Conservation and Development, is mandated legally by the state to be updated every 10 years, changes can happen
Anytime.
during that time period. So that's where these comments in the handout, we can discuss these areas within the POCD and make recommendations for those sections. So it's an opportunity for us, I think.
Yeah.
A good one.
Um,
You have the project list.
David was tracking state legislation. And he's not able to be here today, so we'll hold that over. Nothing once we know.
Looks like
Or what,
nonprofit municipal
That's,
is 75.
okay.
Okay,
what's the
Business
next
is
step?
100.
And
We're nonprofit.
Yeah.
municipal.
No, I mean-
Municipal.
if that is 75 and we're used to giving them 115, is that another category? 115?
No,
Oh, okay.
I think at Siri, a
75.
lot, gave him 100.
what
Right.
about the National Trust?
National Trust. Let's see. Of course, the donation thing pops up immediately.
Well,
They keep changing their names. This is called Saving Places now.
The National Trust,
Yeah.
called what?
Saving Places.
Saving Places. Support savingplaces.org. When you donate to the National Trust, you help save historic and culturally significant places nationwide.
Do they have a category for fences?
Why don't we say this? Why don't we approve payment of the calendar invoice, payment of $75 to Preservation Connecticut, and payment of, if there are dues, for the National Trust that are within our remaining funds, we pay that, and then otherwise we come back and revisit this.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's my motion.
Okay.
Our second. Second.
Discussion, all in favor,
Aye.
carries unanimously with the four of us.
And who seconded that?
I did.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Since
I'll make a
this
motion to
happens,
adjourn.
this happens
A second.
for half an hour, exactly half an hour over.
Not bad,
Second.
Not too bad.
not too bad.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There we go.
Okay.
Amy made the motion that section.
And you just